Welcome to our OVO Movie Recaps. The latest doomsday science fiction TV series, Helgoland 513, shook the screens. A terrible virus had swept across the entire world, leaving only a few survivors struggling amidst the ruins. However, in a place far from the mainland, there existed a paradise, Helgoland, the only virus-free place on Earth. The people here had built protective walls using abandoned giant wheels and barbed wire. Anyone attempting to forcibly land on the island would be mercilessly shot dead. Today, the island welcomed a new life, but it also meant one resident would have to leave, because the island's resources could only sustain 513 people. This elderly person was chosen as the sacrificial victim. The highest leader of Helgoland, Lisa, had been waiting outside for a long time. Both sides chose silence in the face of this inevitable decision. Then, a group of people followed the old man slowly towards the sea. The old man bid farewell to his family at the cliff's edge, then resolutely dashed towards the 1,000-foot cliff. However, his noble decision did not bring balance to the island. Shortly after his departure, the pregnant woman gave birth to another child, a sudden and unexpected occurrence that left everyone present feeling uneasy. The next day, the island's leader, Lisa, convened the management team to discuss countermeasures. They pointed fingers at Dr. Mark, believing he had benevolently concealed the fact of twins. Mark countered that not even ultrasound could predict what was inside a belly. He urged everyone to accept this extra life. However, Lisa believed that the number 513 was a result of scientific calculation, and if they didn't adhere to the rules, chaos would ensue on the island. Therefore, everyone agreed not to set a precedent and decided to vote later to select the person to be executed. This news immediately caused a stir on the small island, but most people weren't worried for themselves because the island operated on a points-based ranking system. The residents were ranked according to their abilities and performance. In other words, the eliminated person would be chosen from those at the bottom. Chris, ranked third from the bottom, became emotional upon seeing this news. Just because he accidentally damaged a truck at work, his points plummeted. He stated on the spot that he would refuse to jump off the cliff if chosen, but his companions joked that he could choose the pig cage instead. Elise, ranked second from the bottom, was elderly and unable to work due to her age, plus her solitary and unflattering personality had kept her points from rising over the years. The man ranked at the bottom was Eddie, labeled as a criminal on the island because he stole painkillers from the hospital during an illness. Despite his efforts to work hard afterward, he couldn't shake off the stigma of being a criminal. By the way, if you enjoy our movie recaps, we're currently hosting a giveaway for our audience. We're excited to announce that a brand new scooter awaits one lucky subscriber. Don't miss out. Subscribe and follow us to stay tuned for more updates. On this island, Mark, as a doctor, and his son held a unique status. They had their own exclusive laboratory where they had been researching vaccines against the virus. However, due to the scarcity of drugs, Mark's vaccine research had made no progress. This day was designated as Food Distribution Day on the island. People lined up to collect meager supplies. Mark also carried a basket to pick out food. Unexpectedly, he collided with a young boy while turning around, causing a bottle of pickles to fall and shatter on the ground. In the current situation of severe food shortage, this bottle of pickles seemed particularly precious. The boy felt guilty for losing a portion of his family's food, while Chris saw this as an opportunity to gain some points. He quickly took out his own apple and handed it to the boy, comforting him that it wasn't his fault. This act successfully caught the attention of Lisa nearby, who immediately praised Chris's noble character and instructed her subordinates to add a point to his ranking. While all eyes were drawn to this spectacle, the troublemaker Henry wasn't idle. Knowing that Eddie's family had been receiving limited food rations due to his criminal background, he told Eddie that he could provide them with food, but only if his wife came alone to collect it. Lisa saw through Henry's provocative behavior, which would have resulted in deductions for others, but being her son, she turned a blind eye. Soon, it was time for the island's voting assembly, where a resident would be chosen as the sacrifice. Because of Chris's previous act of sharing food at the supermarket, his ranking rose to 4th from the bottom. The sacrificial person would be chosen from the bottom 3. The voting result was unsurprising. Almost everyone voted for Eddie. Upon hearing this dreadful news, Eddie and his wife became emotional. Then, his wife slowly stood up and exposed Henry's act of forcing her with food in front of everyone. The explosive revelation immediately caused a commotion among the crowd. People dismissed it as a joke and didn't believe her. Lisa also clearly defended her son. However, Mark on the side encouraged the revelation to continue. Soon, more women who had traded their bodies for food stepped forward. Faced with irrefutable evidence, Henry reluctantly admitted the truth. Disapprovingly, she sought refuge with her mother, but Mark reminded Lisa to uphold the island's laws, just as she had once refused him for the same reason. Lisa understood that if she didn't act justly now, her position as island leader might be compromised. After another round of voting, Henry became the sacrificial person. Although under his mother's insistence he wasn't required to jump off the cliff or be immersed in the pig cage, being sent to the mainland was essentially no different from death. This day was the day for the exchange of goods between the island and mainland survivors. The escort team also threw out the eliminated Henry onto the road. Mark's son also participated in this escort mission. He was very worried about his son leaving the island for the first time. Before leaving, he instructed the female captain to take good care of his son. Shortly afterward, the escort team's boat entered the devastated city. At a small dock, they had to drop off Henry first to fend for himself. But as soon as Henry disembarked, his previous arrogance vanished. He told everyone that his mother had hoarded many scarce resources, hoping to use them as leverage to return to the island. Upon hearing this news, everyone was shocked and angry. However, because they needed to hurry to the next destination, they didn't bother with this troublemaker. Meanwhile, there was a minor malfunction in the island's water system. When Lisa arrived after hearing the news, she found the engineer Yuri already repairing it. Upon learning that he was the only one who understood the technology, Lisa exploded in anger. She couldn't tolerate someone monopolizing technology, especially like Dr. Mark. The item her subordinates handed her next sent shivers down her spine. Owning a radio on the island was illegal. Could someone be secretly contacting the outside world? But with insufficient evidence at hand, Lisa had to let it go for now. On the other side, the escort team had arrived at the trading location. The captain ordered Mark's son to stay and guard the ship while she led the majority to trade. When they arrived at the agreed-upon location, a man named Count arrived as expected. He was responsible for the long-term exchange of goods between the island and the mainland. Just as both sides were exchanging pleasantries, a man rushed out from behind the escort team, excitedly claiming to be a mechanic and hoping to live on the island. The captain brought back 2 full boxes of food from the island. Count was delighted to see fresh fruit because on the mainland, the virus had almost wiped out all living creatures. As part of the exchange, he also gathered medicines and fuel. Although the medicines were expired, they were better than nothing. Meanwhile, the doctor's son on the other ship hadn't yet explored the majority of the vessel, so he decided to look around. In front of an old warehouse, he encountered a man who threw a bottle of medicine at him. At a glance, the doctor's son recognized it as flu vaccine and still within its expiration date. The man then proposed taking the doctor's son to the storage cabin for medicine. Intrigued by the prospect of acquiring these medicines to develop a virus vaccine with his father, he decided to take the risk and go. Soon, they arrived at a dark ship interior where the man indeed produced a box of brand new medicine. However, he now demanded a trade-off for them all to live on the island. The seriousness of the situation dawned on the doctor's son, but fortunately, he was armed. After scaring them off with a gunshot, he fled. On the other side, the captain successfully completed the trade. As the group headed to the dock, An old man suddenly jumped out halfway and tackled the fat man. They began to struggle, and the old man managed to remove the fat man's gas mask. He raised his hand to deliver a fatal blow when the captain decisively shot him down. However, without his protective gear, it seemed that the fat man had already been exposed to the virus. Upon reaching the dock, the captain noticed the absence of the doctor's son. She intended to wait for him here, but the other selfish team members couldn't care less. They didn't want to stay in this cursed place for a moment longer. Fortunately, the doctor's son soon arrived at the shore and saw his family's ship. Without hesitation, he jumped aboard. However, he quickly realized that his protective suit had a crack. While he was at a loss, the man from earlier suddenly jumped onto the ship. Soon after, the escort team successfully returned to the island. The fat man and the doctor's son were immediately put under emergency isolation. Mark breathed a sigh of relief upon learning that his son was uninjured. The doctor's son then informed him about the discovery of new drugs, but Mark suspected that the bottle might contain water because many people had used this method to deceive the island before. After checking on his son, Mark began examining the fat man next, but the fat man's condition was already apparent. He had been coughing incessantly since his return, and when he removed his suit, a red rash appeared, causing Mark and his son's faces to change drastically.